Hi guys, how's everybody doing today? I will be taking a look at a couple pieces today that were handed into the Discord and the Reddit, the subreddit community. And before I get started, I just want to make some small announcements to get your work critiqued, to see your work on these videos, to have your work critiqued for free. All you got to do is go to istebrak.com and click on the subreddit icon right here. That'll take you to the subreddit. Or join us on the Discord, the public Discord channel. If you're looking for a kind of a community that's more active, like a chat community. If you want a more forum-like active community, that's the subreddit community. So we have the different versions of the same thing. The subreddit, you kind of just submit your work and then you go about your day. But if you want stuff where someone replies to you pretty quickly, the Discord is a great option for that as well. Both are very active and both offer critique. So those are where you can find me. I also have my masterclass. If you guys are interested in perfecting your portraiture skills, it's a great starting point for mastering anything on the skill map, but portraits are a great place to get started. Okay, so let's talk about this piece here today. So I'll say what I like about it and what I don't like about it. So let's be honest, it's not offering much, but it is well rotated. It's a great 3/4 view head. You have a lot happening in the image that's really interesting to look at. What I don't like about it is all this extra thumbnailing stuff. You have something like a ring and some kind of ring pattern in the background that may have some symbolic significance to the illustration, but it's really not doing as much as you think it is. What will do a lot is if you give it an atmosphere, if you give it a background, if you give it an environment. And when I say background, it can be an inferred background. It doesn't have to be a direct background like fully illustrated. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm a little bit sneezy lately because of the change of weather. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of the background, and I'll show you how easily you can invite the viewer in and elevate it to the status of illustration. So right now, I wouldn't say it's an illustration. I'm not sure what to call it. It could be like a sticker. It could be maybe a quick kind of original character layout, you know, something like that, just like a quick layout drawing. It doesn't feel like an illustration. Maybe you're not going for that, that's fine, but this is a great template for me to use to show you how quickly it can become an illustration. And it's two things, a background and the light source. Two important things. And this you can do on the most basic of drawings. You can do it if you are a beginner. This isn't a, intermediate or advanced only thing that's accessible to a skilled student that they can, start thinking about illustration. A background is a very simple thing to execute, but it brings in this space, this air around the illustration that elevates the skill visible in the illustration. We actually covered this in the last critique for my apprentices. One of my apprentices submitted a character design that was mostly focused on a costume. But what I did was I added a very, very quick background. In fact, let me try to find it so I can show you guys. And the background really did a lot. In fact, actually, I don't know if I have the after saved. My bad. We'll do that another day. But basically what it was is that it was a gray background. And I added a very simple value to the background, but the value was finely calibrated, meaning that the value that we selected for the background was really, really perfect for the illustration. And then we brought in lighting. So it was like a very dystopian, futuristic sci-fi background. And it was like a high-rise window. So we got to see a window, lots of lights, and all of that was done in a really abstract way. But what it did is that it completed the world around the character. It really shows a more sophisticated artist if even when they're doing a very basic character design profile or portrait like this, that they add a quick little background to complete it. So let me just finish taking this off. So two things I'm going to do. I'm going to just darken the scene just a touch, and I'm just going to bring in an ambient light. So let's say, who is this character? For me, I feel like this is a mimic. It feels like a mimic. It feels like some kind of, not quite vampiric, not quite demonic, but something like one of those mixed entities, you know, that we see in The Witcher or something like that, but a little bit more kind. Maybe they are just a straight up night elf. You have the purple skin, the bright hair, so many different night leaning or cool leaning elements that you have here. So you can see how just with those changes, the image has been unflattened. But let's keep going. All right, so I'm going to darken the scene a little bit. They have glowing eyes. They have these really, really prominent glowing eyes. Let's give them some more presence. I'm just going to use a darken layer to just darken it a little bit. And I'm going to bring out the eyes. Okay. Before I do any of that, I'm just going to start cleaning up that background gradient. And I want to try to lasso it out as well. So just like throwing in, zooming out really helps. Remember, this is a tile canvas as well, but I'm just going to respect what they did and try to keep it the way they had it. And then I'm going to bring in like an ambient light of some kind into the background. This color for this light can change. It's a very, very slight ambient light. What that will do is it'll help us bring the character out. And I'm just going to level everything together. So that ambient light that I just added, I'm going to bring that right on the cheek of the character in a new layer. Oops, I'm still lassoed. Okay, just along the cheek, that front area, a little bit on the hair and the bangs. Okay, maybe duplicate it and then elevate that value a little bit. Oops. Okay, and then just feather it out if I can. So this alone, the purple versus the yellow of the eyes, this did so much for the staging. And I guess you can call this staging. That's a great term for this. I think the staging that you did before wasn't promoting all the work that you put into the character design. You made this character with a very deliberate design. They have a glowing element, they have a magical element. So this is all, you know, it's deliberate. So why not pick an environmental color, an environmental background color that'll really promote all that? Obviously, where we were before, it was just everything was competing. The background color, the glowing character, it looked like a game kind of character select thumbnail, and none of the colors were harmonious because you're picking this very, very peach, not peachy, but very pastel, warm hair color, warm eye color glow, but the eye glow doesn't really read as an eye glow anymore. It just reads as the standard color. And we darkened it a little bit to let it read as a night elf. Now the hair has been cooled down under this layer, which you can also double as a color layer if you want to balance the colors out just a little bit more and cool them down. And it's doing a lot. I think it's changing a lot, but we can keep going. We can keep pushing this illustration. We can get rid of the lines. We can add more shadows. We can add some ambient light on the other side behind the character. So many different things that we can add that stage it better, and it shows more of your skill. It doesn't reduce your skill, because there are some things that you guys do with your character staging that make your skill look like less than it really is. And that's unfortunate, because, you know, we're out here trying to show our best, put our best foot forward, trying to show our, you know, skill as it is, and not get rid of any of, not have any of the extra stuff and get rid of the extra stuff. But you guys are staging in such a way that it's really flattening the image, killing your colors, kind of taking us out of the illustration. We don't feel like we're in the illustration. We don't feel like we're really witnessing your character design. It makes you look like a, you know, to be as delicate as possible, a weaker artist, because you're relying too much on those extra little tricks here and there to make your illustration pop, when really it's your skill that should be representing you, not a bunch of, you know, like tricks, for lack of a better term, which is the circular frame, and, you know, this and that, and all this swirly stuff. Sometimes you guys add in random boxes, like that recent one I critiqued with the storm. There was just that one box. Sometimes you guys add this stuff idly. You don't really realize, you know, maybe I don't need this stuff right now. Maybe I don't actually need this. You just add it in because you feel like the painting needs more, so let me be artistic with it, and that's fine. But I promise you, I swear, after years and years of doing this, I promise it really doesn't do what you think it does. It flattens the image, it damages your skill, and it doesn't let anything come through. So what I'm doing now is I'm just letting the eyes glow just a little bit, just letting that glow read for this magical character. And now you can really like, so let me duplicate the layer. And now you can mess around with how dark you're going. So I'm really going to experiment now. And again, I didn't change your character in any way. All I did was just stage it differently. Ask any real estate agent. It's all about the staging. That was a terrible joke. So I darkened it just a little bit more, just for it to read as like a night elf. Again, I'm just thinking like night elf or mimic. You know, just like a standard kind of character design. I'm not really going for anything specific creature wise. It's just what's popping out to me in the critique. And then I'm just going to add some ambient light to reflect on the hair, just to give the hair some shine. And you can make that ambient light any color you want. It doesn't matter, because that's the nature of the environment. It's that it's cool, and it can borrow from anything. So let me actually merge this down first and just use like a purplish or bluish ambient light just on the hair here at the top. Other things you can do to elevate the skill that's visible here is to recede shadow. So I'm slowly receding the object in the background. As I shrink my brush, I get closer to the edge. It makes the object look like it's rotating into the background. You see that? So it's not just like a flat magazine cutout. And then the front of the collar should also have some of that highlight. And all this ambient light, so just your character is a little bit more visible. Let's talk about other stuff now. So it's your style, it's what you did, but because you're trying to render this a little more realistically, I suggest these anatomical changes. They're small, but they may help you elevate your skill level a little bit. So the nostril feels like it's more nose than the nostril. I don't know if that makes any sense. So she's tilting her head back, or they're tilting their head back. So we would want to see a little bit of the nostril opening, just a little bit. And then blurring or blending out the nostril cavity. So it feels like it's more receding in there instead of like cut out. You're doing a lot of this cut out. You're not doing any blending, which may be a stylistic choice. but it feels a little bit like it's flattening. Flattening, why is that bad? Flattening looks like it never looks like it's deliberate. Most of the time it's done in a way where it looks like it's an accidental skill limit. You know, it doesn't always feel like it's deliberate. Sometimes you'll see flattening that is deliberate, like in one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, the one where the style is just hilariously flattened but so artistically appealing. It's one of my favorite TMNT movies. It's the one with the fly guy. I don't know what it's called. It's so good. It's such a good movie. Please watch it. I love the way they flatten out in that movie. But, you know, sometimes you guys forget that when you flatten, you really have to go all the way. So you're rendering and keeping your lines and barely blending. It's starting to feel a little bit like it's a very it feels like a skill limit and not like it's deliberate. And I'm just blending here just to make it look a little bit more, just to read as a humanoid and less like, again, that cutout look that you have in a lot of your work. And I'm just adding a little shadow on the edge of the mouth. I'm not getting rid of the tail, that tail ending that you guys like to do for the mouth. I'm not getting rid of it. But I am just adding that extra little value there. It just makes the muscles activate. It activates the muscles in the face. Okay. And then this little light that I picked here, maybe it sneaks in into those spaces right under the cheek. Maybe it snuck into the lash line a little bit. So again, it's about deliberate flatness, and flatness that you don't quite mean. Sometimes in certain areas it feels like you're not sure what to do, so you just added a sharp edge where there didn't need to be one, instead of exploring the edge properly and showing us the form. So for instance, right here along the nose, there's a line or an edge that behaves like a line. Really just feels like very, very sharp for such a mild rotation. You could have added some kind of secondary light or a transition that was more soft. There's edges everywhere, and this is an example when you just have too many edges and not enough of the other stuff, which is blending and gradients and radial shading and all that stuff that is the other half of the rendering equation. Okay, so the staging is all good. I changed a little bit of the you know, the way that you figured out the anatomy. I didn't try to change too much of your style. It's still your drawing. So staging really is half the battle, you guys. It really can destroy the skill that you're representing in your work. And most of the time, the staging that you guys are pulling off, I don't know where you're averaging it from, where you're bringing it from, but it can read as cheesy, very, very corny, very cheesy. It doesn't feel like it's really well thought out. It's not like the kind of staging we see in an Art Nouveau painting. Remember how they have all those little designs and all those frames and everything? It's very, very far removed from a functional, flattened stage, and more like you're just putting whatever together. And all that whatever that you're putting together, it doesn't even take any skill, but you're using it to hide what took skill, which is the face you painted, which you painted very well. So, you know, why use it then? If it doesn't even take that much effort to put it in, and it just eats away at the skill that you're actually showing in your portfolio, then what's the point? So you can see how now when we blend that sharp edge of the cheek, look at how you were sculpting. You're just missing out on half of the rewards. You have edges. You're great with your edges. No one can say you struggle with representing an edge or even replacing a line. I think you'll be very strong when you replace your lines. It won't be like a lesson that it'll be hard for you to digest. But I think where you are struggling is just where to blend, where to just let go and let the brush kind of blend into something else. You're not losing a lot by blending. Right, so let's take a look at this. This is really cool. you've got more of a complete illustration, and there's more staging that we can do. And this is all photography. This is all camera work. So before, after, before, after. I don't feel like we lost anything. I feel like we gained more of the character. We gained more of the scene. We have more of a like a complete scene. It almost looks like the kind of style, the deliberate flattening we see in the arcane style. And I'm just gonna boost up the highlight just here around the cheek, just so that we have a hot spot. So all the light, every light has a hot spot where you have most of the light beaming into one area, and that's where like the laser of the light lands. But sometimes you have a branching out of the light. Not every spot where you have that ambient light, be it direct or indirect, is hot. So you're gonna have to highlight some areas, and that's the charm of it, is that it's not always bright everywhere. It's bright in some areas, and it's very charming to look at. It's almost like a twinkling of a star. And so I'm trying to find that balance here. Trying to find a nice balance between the rim light and everything else. And then you can do all that extra stuff that I usually do to my illustrations, especially a character that's supposed to be shadowy, mysterious. I kind of just add in one of these. Really effective. It shows kind of a more of a Hollywood style focus for the character's presence. It creates an overshadowing, literally a foreshadowing of the character and what are they trustworthy, are they not. It's a really, really cool, quick way of closing off the top of the canvas, but not losing detail. And it's a nice little way to frame, showing your character. There's more than meets the eye. Lots of different staging tricks today, but all of them boosted your drawing. I don't feel like they damaged it. I don't feel like there is anything that we're missing out or we've lost in adding these changes. And if you don't like how sharp that overshadow is, you can make it a little softer. You can make it a softer shadow at the top, and that'll also do the trick, just like that. So before, you had a really cool character, really random setting, random skin tone, untanned skin, never seen the light of day, skin tone in the frame on the background. I guess you just picked something that you felt like matched. And then you had this purple, which is perfect. This perfect purple right here, that was exactly what I kept. I didn't change that. And then you had these rings, which were sharp, but again, flatten the image again, because now it's flat. Hey guys, this isn't a real world. This is like a flat, I'm not sure what to call it, just a stage. It's just really flat. This yellow, this gray, this green, this yellow, they weren't harmonized. They weren't in one environment. And then now they've all been harmonized. And now who's this character? What's going on? Who is this person? Now it's an illustration. So imagine you added the arms. Imagine you kind of worked on the face a little bit more. Imagine you added some hand gesture. I think it would have done a lot if you, excuse me, had started off like this. So I'm just going to add a touch more contrast, maybe just darkening the lashes a little bit. Now you can say like you're illustrating, because an illustration is a scene that has a more of a complete environment and atmosphere. Write that back. So you in order to feel like an illustrator, you really do have to explore the background quite early in the development of the illustration. You have to like make some thumbnails. But again, some of you guys are like me. When I was younger, I didn't give a damn about any of that stuff. I just wanted to get in and draw. So I never planned. I built around my portrait, which is fine, as long as you remember what can work with a portrait drawing, what can function with it, and it still be that flat portrait drawing. And I think this staging stuff, this staging talk, is exactly the remedy for that. And I'm just kind of cleaning edges. And this is like you're now in the end stage. You can clean some edges and soften it up. Okay, so it doesn't take a lot to turn it into an illustration. This is technically a background. It has some light changes. It has a color. Excuse me. It has some ambient light, and it's just enough. So I hope that was helpful. Is this your piece, Maggie? She's a home-brewed D&D race. Night elf is a good way to describe it. Oh, okay. So it's a character icon, and it is yours, Maggie. So I think you did so well with the rendering. I really encourage you to, if it's supposed to stay an icon, you can still do the icon. Let me show you. If it's supposed to be an icon, you can still do that while having that environment around. It'll still work very, very nicely. In fact, now that you have an icon, you can possibly really boost those levels. So image, there's auto contrast, which is kind of intense, but you can also just mess around with the contrast, brightness contrast is like a C, and just kind of mess around with it. You can now that it's an icon, you can exaggerate a lot of the contrast instead of it being more mild as an illustration. You could keep it like this, but it's a little intense for an illustration. But when you icon it, you can do so much more. And this looks a little bit more, for lack of a better term, like a little bit more professional. It looks a little bit more clean. It looks a little bit more like thought out, like you prioritized the environment over all of the extra icon stuff that flatten the image. So nothing feels flattened at this point. It still reads as an icon, but here you had all this extra stuff and the color and the extra line around the circle. So many things were canceling out your skill that you really didn't need to do. Okay, moving on. So this one, I think you are great at copying from reference, but you're not so great at measuring. What happened to the lines? What happened to the measurement? So let's look at how off you were in your measurement. And this, again, I remind you guys, when it comes to measuring, it's not a skill to measure. It's not. There's no skill in using a ruler. And that's fine, meaning that should absolve you of any pressure of developing this skill free-handedly or eyeballed. You should not feel any pressure to learn how to measure without a ruler, because the best of the best use a ruler. Okay, so let's take a look at what happened here. So the width of the eyes and the mouth, right? Let's take a look at where they end off. The nose and the eyes are pretty much level. The line of this nose and this eyebrow, the eye starts after, so the eye is much smaller. And then the nose and the mouth, let's continue this line here. We're going to just keep seeing one after the other. The mouth barely sits once we draw the width of the nose from where you are. There's like a really small little area here. See that small area? And then here, that area is quite big. It's just gonna keep growing the more I look around. The edge of the face, this space, and the edge of the face, this space here. Look at the size difference. This line and this line. So it's all measurement. You can draw, you can eyeball, but it's okay if you used a ruler, and it's okay if you rulered up this whole illustration so that you can get a better idea of where everything is, so that while you're eyeballing, you're not guessing too much. Nothing is standing in the way between you and your skill. As you can see today, there's like a common theme. There's you, and there's your skill. You'd worked so hard for it. You developed it for years and years, and you guys just keep slapping a bunch of crap between you and showing your real skill. You guys just keep throwing in more stuff, more obstacles, more unnecessary things between you and your actual skill. And 100% of the time, and I've been teaching for a really long time, 100% of the time, you have more skill than you can show. It's not that you have less skill than you're showing. It's never that. Your brain can always do more than it can show. It's the stuff that you put in the way that stops you from showing your real skill. So this is an amazing, amazing artist here, but they're refusing to measure, or they're measuring but not measuring carefully enough, or they're getting impatient with the measuring, and they can't show their real skill. Instead, they show kind of an uncanny version of the actress whose face we all know and recognize. Something feels a little bit off. Enlarge the eyes, widen the nose, enlarge the mouth, shrink in the face, and I think all of that will start to look very nice. It'll start to really come together. Do you guys have any questions before I let you guys go? Hi, Logic. Yeah, it is a badass icon. I think you can really take it there. I don't feel like you have a lot to do before it reaches this point. You've already done so much for this portrait. Just a little bit of environmental balancing, a little bit of staging, and a little bit of fun with the ambient light should do a lot for you. And then you can really show an environment attached to your character. Now your skill, your portrait skill, is coming through instead of being obstructed. We can actually see it. We don't have to be looking at this random ring icon, any of that. Show us your real skill. Don't show us anything else. And that's what, if you populate your portfolio with that, that's when you're showing your actual skill in your portfolio. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you everyone for coming today. I appreciate those who come out to the live streams. If you guys have any questions at all about the illustrations done today, you guys can always reach me through Discord. If you want to submit your work for critique, you guys just have to go to istebrak.com. You'll find me on all of these links here. Thanks everyone. Bye guys.